Well, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Welcome to Creemee Cast. I'm live here in Bean Studios for Cars and Creamies. I have a really cool guest. Very excited about this today. I have Howard Woods with me. Howard, how are you today?
I am doing great. I'm honestly really excited to be here. I've been hearing about everything that you've been doing lately, and so many people are telling me to come down. It's like a 40-ish minute drive, so I've been reluctant, but the weather was nice and the bike permitted it, so I was like, let me just come and check this out because I've been hearing so much about it lately.
Well, thank you so much, man, for making the trip. I know Johnny has been on me all summer and spring about doing something like this with you, and I said, man, send them my way. I would love to, any way possible, so let's do it. So I'm so glad you came down. So for people who don't know who you are, why don't you just tell them a little bit about yourself, tell them about the brand and what you do, just a little bit, and we'll dive in maybe to more about how you did that, why you did it. But
okay, so first of all, my name's Howard Woods, and on my social medias I go by yafavlightskin 37. I pretty much do motorcycle giveaways and motorcycle content on my social medias, and I've been doing it for about a year now. The biggest platform for all of it is my Instagram, and I do have it on my Facebook, my Instagram, and my YouTube as well, and it's all the same and my TikTok, but mostly on Instagram. And I have been riding for about 4 years. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I've lived in Vermont since about 2016, full-time since 2018, and yeah, that's just the gist of, where I'm from, what I do. I have my clothing brand, which is yafavapparel.llc, and through my clothing line is how I'm able to do the giveaways and the raffles for my motorcycles. So I build them, advertise them on my social media, and everyone who wants to enter to win one of my motorcycles buys, some kind of merch from the website. It goes into a third-party software, gets generated, so it's a random picker, and you get a random winner. They come up to Land Air. We host an event in Essex, and the winner rides off with a motorcycle.
That's pretty incredible. So I know we were talking a little bit before about what you do and how you do it, but you're telling me that you actually worked at Handy Service. Is that where you were working?
I worked at Handy Service Center in downtown Burlington, Vermont, for about 4.5 years before I started doing all of my solo stuff.
So talk to me a little bit about that. How did you end up going from working in a service station to then now you're doing stuff on social media, you're giving away bikes, raffling off bikes, it sounds like? I mean, that's pretty incredible. Give me a little synopsis, like how did you go from doing that to what you're doing now? Yeah,
so honestly, I do have a great appreciation for Charlie Handy taking me on at the time that he did. I hadn't finished college, and I was kind of floating, didn't really know, where my place was going to be, what was going on. I just have had a job since I was 12 and always felt like I leaned more towards the working life than academics.
Sure.
So when I transitioned from going to college to working full-time, I was just trying to figure out, what kind of things that I wanted to get into, and I do get bored easily. So I usually am working in, restaurant business prior to Handy's. Being on Long Island, New York, tons of restaurants everywhere. I worked at a seafood shack on the beach, and that was great. So living in Vermont, not having that kind of avenue to take, I'd never really done anything.
You can hear the noise in the background, folks. Yeah.
Besides, just changing my own oil, changing my own tire. So I saw the ad on Craigslist that Charlie was hiring down at the service station, and I just thought that was my window to learn more about cars than I knew.
Sure.
The first 2 years that I spent there probably went really deep in car mechanics, auto mechanics. I was a AAA roadside assistant, so while I was in the shop getting hours, learning how to do certain things, none of what I was learning in there really transitioned to what I was doing on the spot for people who were broken down in their cars and
Sure.
such. So learning but not using it, doing the AAA roadside, which was usually just a tire change, a battery jump start, a battery install, stuff like that, was making me feel like the things that I was learning over there, I just wanted to try to use and get more out of it.
Absolutely.
And that's when I started, working on my own cars. And then COVID happened.
Yes, sir.
Once COVID happened, I went from working, 12 to 13 hour shifts 5 days a week to now I'm only working from 8 in the morning until like 2:30 p.m.-ish. So there was so much more daylight out when I got off of work from the usual, and a whole lot of nothing to do because everybody was quarantining. And even during work, there were very few calls. It was almost like 7-hour shifts of just sitting in the van hoping that like a doctor couldn't get their car started in the morning before going to the hospital so I could go and jump them and have human interaction, you know. And that's when I picked up motorcycling. So since about April of 2020, that's when I started riding. And from there, it was just constant every day after work. All the guys were sat at my house waiting for me to go start riding. You know, the stimulus checks helped them all get motorcycles.
That's right. Everybody had one.
Everybody had a bike.
That's pretty wild.
Open roads in Vermont. It was quite the experience. And then we would just do that every single day on repeat. And once quarantine started to transition out and everybody was going back to work, you know, we still had all these motorcycles. We still wanted to ride. And that is what got me into, you know, motorcycle mechanics from auto mechanics, and then buying motorcycles, wanting to test, you know, everything out that I could, upgrading to go faster, you know, getting teased by all these videos of people on the track and, you know, all the crazy things they're doing. I just wanted more in the motorcycle scene. So I got that opportunity from working at Handy Service Center because not only were they, you know, paying me well enough to be able to live and then also afford a hobby, I was getting knowledge on how, because my coworkers there that were older than me were also into, you know, motorcycling, four-wheeling, dirt biking, because that's, you know, just something you can do more of in Vermont. They gave me the knowledge I needed to go and start, you know, buying motorcycles, testing them out, you know, flipping them. I got into resale, and after about 2.5 years of resale, you know, I started to just think bigger picture, you know, why only make $3,000 or $4,000 on a flip of a vehicle that I got to enjoy for a little bit. What can I do, you know, to get more? And I just had the ambition to drive to different states to pick up, you know, bikes that probably have a lot less miles on them, a lot less riding than the bikes in Vermont, just because everything's so far spaced out here. And then also there's a much higher population in lower New England or closer to the tri-state, so there's less competition. So, you know, you can get really good deals, get a bike, bring it back. It's going to be, you know, Christmas for someone in Vermont to see anything under 13,000 miles.
Sure.
And, you know, I just got to that point. I asked myself, you know, how can I make more than $3,000? And I was like, you know, what about a raffle? But when I first came up with that idea, I thought if I just did a regular raffle, you know, everybody Venmo me this amount to get entered, I'll draw a winner kind of thing. At the time, my Instagram had started blowing up before I started the raffle. So when I was about at like 16,000 followers, that's when I started playing with the idea of a raffle. And I was thinking, what if 100% of everybody on my following just Venmo'd me the raffle entry? Would I get, you know, red flagged on IRS, you know, tax fraud? Like, what would happen to me if one day I just woke up with, like, you know, because I was getting more views than actual engagement at the time. So the initial number that I just thought to my head was like, all right, the last 3 reels that I made have all had 1.3 million views. So I was like, if 1.3 million people even sent me just $1, what's that going to look like when it all just comes in at once, you know? So that's when I came up with my LLC, which is Yafave Apparel, and making my hoodies, my phone cases, my t-shirts and stuff like that, just general merch, and having a brand to back my ideas. That way, you know, I've got a legal team behind me that can help navigate the things that I don't necessarily know or didn't necessarily understand while starting.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's been a really, really big help, just going step by step and learning so much along the way, while also, you know, just chasing a dream and being able to wake up, enjoy the passion that I'm doing, and then, you know, rinse, repeat with all the content creation and stuff. So starting Yafave Apparel was mostly just to financially keep myself safe, because I didn't really know what I was getting into when I started. I just had a dream, had an idea, and had an audience that wanted to support and participate in that. So starting the brand was to make sure that the money was being tracked and being tracked properly, and so that people could know that the giveaways were legit, that somebody's actually getting a motorcycle, that it's not just, clickbait. And I think that has helped me come a long way in all of my following, like backing me. I've seen multiple different, comments against what I'm doing. Of
people talking. Yeah.
And my initial response would be, defending myself in my comment sections when I had less followers and stuff. But now I know that my followers have my back and are going to do that for me, and they'll be the ones that are in my comment section like, are you crazy? You didn't even look at his page. He's already got the post up there, the first giveaway.
Yeah.
They pretty much just defend me in a way that I don't have to anymore, which is the great thing about it finally coming around.
It's funny. When I first started doing a lot of social media work, I suffered a pretty vicious attack by the Vermont Democrats. And that was like pretty like, whoa, I'm like actually receiving hate right now. Mm-hmm. But then when people came along to defend me and like have my back, there was no better feeling. It was just like, wow, like I don't have to even fight for myself. Like I do have to fight for myself, obviously, but to have people support you like that, it's a really amazing feeling, I'm sure. And so you how did you maybe said it a little bit, but how did you get the idea, all right, I want to do a raffle? You said I want to make more money, but did that just like spawn on you, or was that just kind of like...
So I actually like really looked up to this page called Ride Clutch when I first started riding, and they're in Arizona. And everyone on the Ride Clutch team, they all did motorcycle giveaways. And I had always just like entered, I'm supporting the creators that I love watching every day. Excuse me. And, I would buy their hoodies, buy their t-shirts and stuff like that. And the first one that I bought, it was, I want to win one of their motorcycles. I saw their motorcycle. It looked really cool. It was, custom. And that's what I was in it for. Watching them promote it, watching them network it, watching them enjoy, what they were doing as they were putting that out. The next time that I was buying merch from them, it wasn't really to enter for a motorcycle. It was just to support what they were doing.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, if I win, I win. But, like, I'm still going to, help them with this one giveaway that they're doing next. And seeing that, and then, one day it would just stop. Like, it just wasn't happening anymore. The Ride Clutch website was down, said sorry for the inconvenience. We may or may not be back, like, on the website. And yeah, like I spoke with Ride Clutch Ryan, and they kind of just, went their separate ways and all branched off into different things that the three of them that you saw most commonly were doing. And so that's why they, stopped, to my knowledge. And there wasn't anyone really else at the time after that was doing it. So even if there were, like, I hadn't seen them in my social media feeds. Like, Ride Clutch was just who, when I think of motorcycle giveaways, because theirs was like the fantasy motorcycle giveaway.
Yeah.
That's who I thought of. And once they stopped, I missed the content. Like, in my feed, I missed, seeing them ride on the different bikes, like seeing them enjoying building the motorcycle.
You were invested into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's beautiful.
That was my inspiration for wanting to start a motorcycle giveaway when I was looking for, a better way to make money off of being in the bike scene and like flipping motorcycles and stuff. And then I thought to myself, well, I have the opportunity through Handies of seeing all of these different motorcycles and acquiring all of these different motorcycles. Why not, try to be the light for somebody else that Ride Clutch was for me?
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, well, they're not doing it anymore. I asked a couple questions that I needed to, and I just decided to just start it and see where it goes from there. And that's my original inspiration, was definitely Ride Clutch.
Wow. It's interesting to hear you explain this all, because I think a lot of the times people look at somebody like you and what you've done, and they think it's like this overnight like success, like out of nowhere, and like you're just making all this money, and like that's why you're doing it. It's obviously, yeah, you want to make money, but I think what you touched on was the motivation of like you missed seeing their content, and like it meant something to you. You liked it. You knew that you were invested, so other people were too. So obviously, great capitalist move, by the way, to make a decision and just like go after like a business and do it. You saw an opportunity and you took it. That's pretty incredible, man. So take me back. So you're working for Handies. When did you stop working for Handies?
I stopped working for Handies last August. So
full
I would
year.
say, yeah, it's been a full year since I've been out of there.
So what was that like when you finally decided, like, I don't want to do this anymore?
It was a whirlwind of emotions because I grew up, I've got 6 brothers, 2 sisters. We didn't always have when we were younger, but once we were all of working age, we went straight to work. And I think that's like the biggest thing coming from a single parent household of 9 that,
Wow. Holy cow.
working will get you out of the situations, that you're in, will provide more opportunities, etc. So for me to be working 51 hours a week, for somebody and, having my funds and, rent paid, secured, all of that security, risk, is the risk going to be worth the reward was the thing. And I reached out to all of my siblings, and a lot of them, because I'm the second to youngest in the tree,
Sure.
so they, backed me almost 100%. Like I have 7 of them that were like, do it, you've always been, very smart for your age, and you've always, had all these dreams and stuff like that. So I had those 7 that were telling me, do it. And then I had the devil's advocate sibling that was not telling me not to do it, but was kind of making sure that like I knew everything that could go wrong before I decided to do it.
That's the one that loves you the most.
And so we just talked, and like I probably like broke down a couple times when I was like actually really like, all right, committing to walking in and telling Charlie that like, hey, like I don't want to work here anymore, because like they've been my family like since being in Vermont. So having that connection with who you're working for,
Yes.
and feeling like if you left, they might not be as well off as they would have been, with you there, just
Sure.
because I was told by them and felt like I brought so much to the table as the youngest person working there, being able to communicate with the younger demographic of UVM students that needed their service, and just being a AAA roadside assistant that can also come back to the shop and dispatch if he needs me to, or
Sure.
just being so versatile in that job. It felt like I was, biting the hand that fed me by
I know what you mean.
leaving and wanting to start something of my own. But he understood, and I had the support of my coworkers there. Like they always told me, like, you could be doing so much more. This doesn't seem like the job for you. The tow truck drivers that I was working with, they were all born and raised in Vermont. Only job they ever, knew, and they, like older siblings, like didn't want that from me.
Yeah.
Because in my time here in Vermont, personally, I feel like the two kinds of Vermonters that I've met being from the outside looking in are the ones that have left Vermont and come back, or have never left Vermont.
Yes.
And so to have that kind of support from my coworkers also saying, do it.
They knew that you had opportunity to do something big.
Exactly. And so,
Yep.
I spoke to Charlie about it, and he told me, if anything goes wrong, if you ever need anything, like, you have a place here to come back. And so that, like, send off with no animosity just made it feel like everybody was behind me in
And
it.
believed in you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what the entirety of actually like leaving like Handy's meant for me. It didn't feel like I was like saying goodbye. It was more like a see you later, or
Sure.
something along the lines.
So as one of 9, or you said that, right? One of 9.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, so your siblings were kind of like, do it, right? One of them was not.
Yeah.
How old was he?
So that
She.
that he was my 3rd oldest sibling.
So he's older than you, though.
Yeah, he's older than me. He's one of my older siblings.
So what are they up to?
Well, he owns his own catering business.
So he
down
knows
on Long
that.
Island.
Yeah, he knows.
So
Yeah.
he owns Good Events in New York, and it's one of the biggest, if not the like catering businesses on Long Island.
Wow.
Like he's working with the Real Housewives of New York. Like he's
Holy cow.
in Montauk, and I did some of the catering with him when I was younger, like in high school. I would work for him and do jobs with him and see the kind of work ethic that he puts into all of that, and the time that it consumes from him running his own business and such, because I go down there to visit not too frequently, but frequently enough.
Sure.
But every time that I go there, like I maybe get like, if I'm there for a week, maybe one day with him, or if I'm there for a weekend, like maybe I'll see him once or twice for like an hour to two.
Sure.
Because he's got another gig.
He's busy.
Preparing. Yeah. So
that was the one that was like the most pragmatic. He literally knew, all right, if you're going to do this, like be prepared because it might suck at times.
Exactly.
Did it ever suck at times?
So yes, when I first started off, I was kind of just chewing through my savings to get my following off the ground. I had to convince a lot of people that I was actually trying to provide a real service.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yep.
That was the biggest hurdle for me in doing all of this. I'd say from, so I stopped working for Handy's in August. I'd say the end of September after I got back from France, I'd say October through January was the hardest time for me, just growing the following and getting the people to understand that like what I'm doing is legit.
Yeah.
So I didn't really start seeing any numbers that I projected until January, just because there was a lot of time of, okay, I'm not currently working, like I'm technically unemployed, although I started my LLC already. There were only a certain amount of people who were willing to take a risk on a profile with only 14,000 views saying they're giving away a motorcycle.
Sure. That's understandable.
Yeah. So initially, the first, I'd say 4 or 5 months was uncertainty in if what I was doing was sustainable, but I was certain through all of that it's what I wanted to do. So I kept trying, I kept posting, I stayed consistent. I was doing a ton of riding in Florida. One of my older siblings who supported what I was doing let me stay with him for the winter. And while I was down there in West Palm Beach, the motorcycle scene is massive. I'm going to meets every Wednesday, every Thursday. 250 plus motorcycles. Yeah. Everybody's riding out and getting my name out there. People seeing me pop up in their For You pages down in Florida. That's really where my following just started taking off. And then because so many people met me at those bigger meets and could see a face for what the content was on Instagram at the time, started, word of mouth around there and just letting people know, and just being a part of like the brotherhood that is motorcycling naturally just came with a community of people that wanted to back me up. And so from there, I'd say January, February is where like I started to comfortably feel like I could do this. Like everything was starting to align. And by April, I did my first motorcycle giveaway. And from there, like it's just been me playing with the algorithm and figuring out what works to get my content out and what doesn't.
Dude, that's a beautiful story, man. That's just so cool to hear the growth of it. Really, in less than a year, to think that you're at, was it 190,000?
130,000.
130,000 on Instagram, and a year ago you were at.
I was at like 1,400 when I
see.
Started
like so, the point that I'm trying to get out here is like, I just think it's that we live in this world now where, yes, there's a lot of crazy things going on. There's a lot that sucks, blah, 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 whatever. But we have this opportunity with social media and technology to do some pretty incredible stuff, to shape, the life that you want, really. And to not only that, but like you're connecting with people across so many different platforms about something you're in love with. And you're meeting those people, you're having these experiences with them. Like they're all out there, right? Like, but if you don't have social media, it's hard to form that group. It's hard to form that organization. But it's out there, folks. Like you can do it if you're somebody who has a passion and you really care about what you're into. It could be skiing, it could be baking, it could be whatever it is. It's out there, and you got to make it happen. So definitely, take the story to heart, because there's thousands of people out there doing this type of stuff every single day. It's not just it is a dream, but it's not just a dream. It's a dream you can make a reality. So I don't, I'm sure we could talk all day. I know we said we'd go for about 20 minutes. We're at already 27 minutes. Do you want to just like have anything else you want to say? I mean, I'd shout out your social media, definitely. And
yeah, so if I was to leave any piece of advice to anybody wanting to get started with doing something like this, you don't have to quit your day job like I did. You can still do it at the same time. You probably won't be able to put as much time into it as you like, but everybody's got to start somewhere, and you could even, turn your day job into something like this. If I knew then what I knew now, I could be, some type of famous AAA roadside service.
Yes, literally. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
If I knew everything that I knew now, I would have been with my GoPro recording every interaction that I had with my customers as a AAA rep, like, doing their jump starts and their tire changes on camera, posting that on TikTok,
Crazy
Instagram,
stuff that
wherever.
happens.
Because there's a niche for everything
Yes, there
on
is.
social media, and you just have to find your niche and stick to it, and don't let anybody make you feel like what you're going to do is silly or that nobody's going to want to watch, because there's somebody that wants to see exactly what content you're putting out. And so
that's the beauty.
Yeah, if you don't take anything else away from this podcast, like if you have an idea and you want to show it to people, do that. Show it to them and they will watch.
It's amazing. Well, I think that sums it up pretty well, folks. Thank you so much again, man. So cool to have you down.
I'm glad to have been down here. It's Howard Woods on Facebook and yafavlightskin37 on every other social media.
And Howard, you will be here on Friday, right?
For sure. I will be
So just to shout it out again, we are doing a car show, a motor show here on Friday down at the old Bean Chevrolet building, 470 North Main Street, Northfield, Vermont. Beans, Creemees, Rocket J's. We're going to have good measure here, serving beer, live music. We'd love to have you here. Come on down, meet Howard, meet me, meet my friends, meet the crew.